welcome back to another episode of the Power Sports Memorabilia Show. I am your host, Matt Powers. Thank you again for joining me. If you guys get a chance, please visit the website at powersportsmemorabilia.com, and you can also follow me on Instagram at Powers Autographs. So today's topic is going to revolve around the New York Yankees and their top 10 autographed baseballs that you should have in your collection. So before we get started here, let's talk about, again, a couple parameters for who's going to make this list. First off, I'm only doing players on this list. I debated whether or not to include George Steinbrenner and Joe Torre and those type of guys, because obviously they have played a huge impact in the Yankee organization. But for this particular list, we're just going to do players. And another thing that I'm going to be considering, of course, are the players' stats, but really mainly is demand for their autograph. You know, is this player someone that regardless of price, would they want to have in their autograph collection? So those are going to be the parameters. I'll go through the list here, and then we'll talk a little bit about who was left off the list, because there's some names that I left off that I thought initially would be on this list. So, but let's go ahead and get started here with number 10, and that is Mr. Bill Dickey. Now, not a super popular name, I guess you can consider among the younger collector generation there. But Bill Dickey was an 11-time All-Star, 14-time World Series champion. Think about that, 14 times. I mean, that is just like, you just expect to win every year. I mean, that is just absolutely insane. There's not a lot of autographs, or at least good quality autographs out there on him, but he's still fairly affordably priced. I think I saw a baseball just a couple days ago, around $500 or so. Hall of Famer, great Yankee player, got some great stats to back it up, and Bill Dickey is number 10. Number 9 is a very popular player for the Yankees, Mr. Roger Maris. Of course, Maris, well known for hitting 61 home runs, 7-time All-Star, 3-time World Series champion, 2-time MVP. Not a lot of autographs out there on him. Definitely a big name that you want to have in your collection. The reason I kept Maris so low here is just he just doesn't have the stats to really move up this list compared to some of these other guys that you're going to see on this list. But he's on there because, of course, he hit 61, which I still believe is actually the American League record for most home runs in a season. So still holding strong on that record. But number 9, Mr. Roger Maris. Moving along here, number 8 is going to be Whitey Ford. Great pitcher, of course. 10-time All-Star, 16-time World Series champion, Cy Young Award winner. Of course, he's a member of the Hall of Fame. I mean, everybody here is on this list of the Hall of Fame. Everybody except for one so far. So, and of course, Maris not in the Hall of Fame there. But so, Whitey Ford, just a great pitcher. Guy, 6-time World Series champion. Of course, synonymous with Yogi Berra. And just an absolute stud for a pitcher for the Yankees. Some could argue potentially their best pitcher of all time, but we've got one guy ahead of him on this list that some would argue maybe a little bit better. So moving along here to the guy I just mentioned there, and we've got number 7, Yogi Berra. Now, Yogi's a guy that could be really all over this list, and here's a couple reasons why. Number 1, he's got absolutely incredible team stats. The guy, 13-time World Series champion, 18-time All-Star, 3-time MVP, Hall of Famer, signed a lot, of course. So his autograph is readily available. It's pretty affordable. But his stats as an individual player, weren't great. Just taking that into consideration here. Is he an autograph that is in huge demand for Yankee collectors? Yes. Is he among maybe the younger generation? Potentially no. But I think he's definitely one that you got to have in your collection. Obviously, he caught the perfect game from Don Larson. So, he's definitely one that you just got to have in your collection, and it's readily available. Everybody can afford to get him in there. He's kind of a great kind of starter autograph too for these top 10 lists here. Moving along here, number 6, the newest member of the Hall of Fame, Mr. Mariano Rivera. First unanimous Hall of Famer, 13-time All-Star, 5-time World Series champion, Major League record for most saves, 652. I would argue the best at his position. Now, granted, they did start keeping the save stat, for when I forget when they started that in the 70s or so. But, some of these, players from early on aren't going to have that stat. But if you're starting from right now, Rivera is arguably the best at his position. And the guy just has incredible stats. Not to mention, like I said, the first unanimous Hall of Famer. You got to have Rivera on there. And he's just got some great inscriptions that you can add. Even after making the Hall of Fame, still a fairly affordable autograph. But definitely one you want to have in that Yankee collection. Number 5, the only member of this list, actually, not the second member of this list, to not be on the Hall of Fame, but he's going to be in there, of course. I think you know who I'm talking about here. Mr. Derek Jeter. Where do I start with him? I would argue that of all the living players, that Jeter is the most sought-after autograph for any Yankee collector. 3,000 hit club, 14-time All-Star, 5-time World Series champion. He was the Yankee captain for, I think, 11 years. Mr. November, Captain Clutch, all that great stuff. He is from a signing perspective, a paid autograph sign, he is an expensive autograph. He hasn't done one in just a couple years. So when he does make the Hall of Fame, that pricing is going to be very, very expensive. I did do a video on which autographs you should get for Jeter. So you should go ahead and check that one out there on YouTube. Good video that just kind of outlines kind of the stuff that people really want for him. But I love Jeter, man. I think Jeter is either loved or hated by a lot of people. He's got some good stats. Obviously not as big of stats as some of these guys ahead of him. But I think Jeter is just so synonymous with New York Yankees of, the 2000s and beyond. So definitely one you want to have in that collection. All right, now here's where it starts getting tough here. These top 4 here. I really debated on a lot of these things. I moved number 2 and 3 back and forth. Number 4 moved around a little bit here, and these could really go any way, but I'm going to go ahead and explain why I put each player in each position here. Number 4 is Joe DiMaggio. Now, DiMaggio has got to be, ahead of Jeter here just because he's got that 56-game hitting streak. And, 9-time World Series champion, 3-time MVP, 13-time All-Star, Hall of Famer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not to mention the whole Marilyn Monroe thing. So the reason why DiMaggio is down on this list is simply just because the guys, the 3 ahead of him, are just better. I mean, they're just better, in my opinion, with the demand for their autograph and also for their statistics. Not by a lot, but they just are right now. I just don't see the same, enthusiasm for DiMaggio as I see for some of these other guys, just in talking to collectors. So, again, DiMaggio could be really almost anywhere on this list here, but for now, I've got him at number 4. And number 3, again, a tough one. I had him at number 2 for a little while, but I thought better of it, and I'll tell you why. But number 3 is Mickey Mantle. Now, Mantle's a pretty easy autograph to get. I mean, there's a ton of signed baseballs out there on him. So, he's a 16-time All-Star, 7-time World Series champion, won a Triple Crown, 3-time MVP, when he's got 536 home runs. With him, the stuff that's really valuable is the ones with the inscriptions on there. Those can be worth big, big money. But you can find autographed baseballs that are authenticated by, JSA, PSA, Beckett for, a fairly good price, $400 to $600-$700, depending on what the actual quality is. The reason why Mantle is number 3 is I think simply because his autograph is so readily available. It's not as difficult to get as some of these other 2 guys here. So that's why I put Mantle at number 3. Number 2, Lou Gehrig. Now, Gehrig's obviously a tough autograph to get, a good, nice quality one. I can't remember the last single signed baseball I saw from him, but thousands and thousands of dollars. He just died so young at age 37. But, of course, Iron Horse had the most consecutive game streak before Ripken broke it. 6-time World Series champion, Hall of Famer. Just simply the fact that Gehrig played with the player who's also number one, and he just died so young, but he had that huge consecutive game streak that was just so synonymous. And just the way that he passed away, I think simply because Gehrig's autograph is not that readily available, the demand is that much higher, and I think he warrants his position at number 2 here. And number 1, of course, the greatest, Ted Williams. Oh, no, sorry, that's another team. Number 1, of course, is the great Bambino. Babe Ruth. These stats are just... I'm going to start off with Babe Ruth here. My favorite thing about Babe Ruth, and this is just because I grew up kind of with this movie, was The Sandlot, every kid, I think, should watch The Sandlot just to see that autographed baseball in there. I think that is one of the greatest... I don't want to say kids movies, but teenage movies, kind of that range. And, of course, one of the greatest baseball movies of all time, too. But, 714 home runs, 7-time World Series champion. He was a pitcher also. And, of course, the whole reverse the curse thing with the Red Sox and the trade and all that stuff. Arguably the most popular Yankee of all time. Did sign a lot, signed way more than Gehrig did. And you can find, baseballs out there. Expensive, they're not for everybody. But definitely, if you have the cash, Babe Ruth, not just if you're, building a Yankee list, but if you're building a baseball list in general, Babe Ruth is that one autograph that people are like, wow, like I've got to have that. If you walk into anybody's collection, like people, even if they're not baseball fans, they walk them like, oh my God, that's Babe Ruth. Like he's that one autograph that people are just kind of drawn to, kind of like a Michael Jordan. So, all right, so that's my top 10 list there. Let's go ahead and recap. Number 10, Bill Dickey. Number 9, Roger Maris. Number 8, Whitey Ford. Number 7, Yogi Berra. Number 6, Mariano Rivera. Number 5, Derek Jeter. Number 4, Joe DiMaggio. Number 3, Mickey Mantle. Number 2, Lou Gehrig. And number 1, Babe Ruth. So let's talk about a couple names I left off the list. The one of the hardest ones I left off the list was Thurman Munson. And I just couldn't get around to put him on the list just simply because, obviously his stats, just weren't that great just simply because he died so young at 32. I just don't see, and I could be wrong about this, I just don't see that much, I don't want to say demand for, but I think people are kind of looking for these other guys' autographs a little bit more, than Thurman Munson. Yeah, Bill Dickey may be one that could maybe go below Thurman Munson as far as, popularity for that autograph. But I think Bill Dickey's just got a whole bunch of, great stats with him. It'd be hard to leave him off of that list there. But Munson, again, 2-time World Series champion, was the Yankee captain. There's not a lot of signed stuff out there. Very difficult to come across quality stuff with him. So he was a tough one to leave off the list. Don Mattingly, too. 6-time All-Star, MVP. Again, another Yankee captain. He's a tough one. Steinbrenner, leaving him off the list, of course, but I did just do players. And then Joe Torre, too. Never played for the Yankees, but of course won 4 titles with the Yankees, so, and a member of the Hall of Fame. So that's the recap on who I left off in my list there. I'm sure there's plenty of changes on there. Let me know what you guys think of the list. If you guys get a chance, please visit the website at powerssportsmemorabilia.com, and also give me a follow over at Instagram at Powers Autographs. Talk to you guys soon.